All right, hey there, Wade Sellers here, and in this video we're going to talk quickly about comparison operators. You've seen these thousands of times by now in your math classes, but there might be two that you haven't seen that are a little more related to code. Okay, so what we're talking about here are your greater thans, your less thans, your greater than or equal tos, your less than or equal tos, and then two that are a little bit more unique are your equal to and your not equal to. So let's play around here. I've got my playground book open. And we're just gonna use these little boxes to tell us what is being stored at variables. Okay. Now check this out. I've got let number 1 equal 3 and let number 2 equal 3. Actually, let me change that. I'm gonna do let number 1 equal 5 and let number 2 equal 3. We can start just like in the playground book. We can start just making comparisons using the operators. So we could do number 1 is greater than number 2. We could do number 1 is less than number 2, we've seen this before. We could do number 1 is greater than or equal to number 2. We could do number 1 is less than or equal to number 2. And then 2 you might not have seen yet, but number 1 is equal to number 2. And number 1 is not equal to number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and run the code now, and we're just going to look at these statements. Now, if we go through this, you can see this right here. It's true, false, false, true. Okay, that's what we have right here. And if I click on these little boxes, it'll show the value a little bigger. All right. So what's going on here is when you compare two operators, you are going to get a Boolean. Okay, you're going to get a true or false. It's basically a statement. So number 1 is greater than number 2. That's true because 5 is greater than 3, right? Number 1 is less than number 2. Well, that's false because 5 is greater than 3, right? It's not less than. Number 1 is is greater than or equal to number 2. Okay, it's true. Number 1 is less than or equal to number 2. Okay, it's false. All right, so this starts to make sense, like you've done this in your math classes. Now, these two right here is number 1 is equal to number 2. So if you remember a couple of videos ago, we talked about the assignment operator, and it was the equal sign. And the equal sign doesn't technically mean equals when there's only one of them. It means put into or set the value to this value, right? When we do double equal sign in Swift, it means is this the same as that? Is number 1 the same as number 2? Is the value of number 1 the same as the value of number 2? And so it's 5 and 3, so they're not equal, and that's why it's false. Number 1 is not equal to number 2 because it's not the same. And then if you go to number 1 is not equal to number 2, it's true, okay? So not equal to. In Swift, an exclamation point is a unary operator, and it means like the opposite of, okay? So whatever was true would be false, or whatever is equal would be not equal. That's what you think of it. Think of the exclamation point as basically the word not. Let me show you something else that you can do. It's kind of, this might blow your mind a little bit, but I might do like var example Boolean opposite, okay? And we'll set it to, okay, so if we set it to true, all right, then the value is true. And we'll just prove it right now. It's true, okay? But we could set the exclamation point right there, and now it's not true, AKA it's false. So when I run the code again, notice that the value now is false. It's taken the true and it's done the opposite of it. And you'll use it at times. Sometimes you'll want to know if something's not true. And you could say if it's false, but sometimes it writes a little better if you say not true. And you'll notice it at times in your code as you work through the apps, you'll start to use the opposite operator here, the exclamation point, more and more. So these are comparison operators. You're going to use these all the time, especially when you're creating like if statement logic and you're creating two different pathways for code. I know when you get to tic-tac-toe, you'll find out if something's a winner or a loser, and you're going to use these comparison operators all the time. But just know that when you use a comparison operator, you are checking whether something is true or false, and that something is the statement. Number 1 is greater than number 2. True or false, right? And you'll store that value in a variable. And with that, that's comparison operators. I will see you in the next video. Bye.